Hey guys, so today what we're going to be doing is making the soft-faced hammer that we've made previously in a practical setting from this exact drawing, and we're going to make that on CAD. So we're going to actually make that on Autodesk Inventor. So I'm going to be working from this drawing here. If you want to take a screenshot so that way you've got it up all the time, that may be helpful for you as well. But I'm going to move that onto my second screen now, and I'm going to be starting a new drawing up here in the top left, clicking on that page, not on the arrow, so that I get this screen up and I can make sure that I select standard millimeter IPT and create that. It does normally take a couple seconds to actually load up and be ready to go. So just like when we're actually making this in a practical setting as well, I'm going to start off by making the handle. And a little bit the same as in the practical setting as well. So clicking on Start Sketch there in the top left, and then clicking on the bottom plane, which is actually the XZ plane. And then rotating up there in the top right, using the arrows to turn it around to have top facing the right way. We actually do kind of turn this in a way, which is the same as how we do it in the actual making of it on the lathe. So we've started this now. We're going to make a side profile of what this looks like. So this entire thing is 25 millimeters across. Half of 25 is 12.5. So 12.5 and press enter. We want the handle to be 120 millimeters long. So moving that up 90 degrees and then typing 120. Now we've still got this attached and we actually don't, so I'm going to right click and go OK, and that way we can move on to the next segment, which is another line. We're going to do this one in the middle there, and this is going to go up, and we need this to be the total length of our hammer, and so that's going to be 120 plus 135, which is going to equal 255, and then add on 20 to that, so it's going to be 175. So 175. No, it's not. It's going to be 275. Quick maths. Obviously not my specialty. Now you would have seen the end of this is going to be 14 millimeters in diameter at the end. So we need to actually cut that in half because like I said, we're doing a side profile. So you can see here moving that at 90 degrees and then what's half of 14? That is correct. It is 7. And then from that 14 we want to go down 20. And then we're going to connect these two lines together just like that. Right click and pressing OK to get out of that little menu. So we've got our angle here as well. Curious. Cool. And we're going to leave that like that. No, we're not actually. Because you will notice on that drawing that we have a 15 millimeter hole in the back end of it. This is actually incorrect. It's a big hole that takes out a lot of weight of the hammer, but it doesn't actually serve much more of a function rather than take the weight out of the end of it, so it's a bit nicer to swing. So what I'd actually like to do, if we can take the hammer, some of the weight out of the handle, and also have a screw in another face for the soft face hammer, is probably a lot better of an idea. So this hole is going to have to be 12 millimeters big. So if we cut down that 12 millimeters into 6. And so I'm going to go down here for a second, and we're going to go in 6, and then we're going to go up, and we're actually going to go up. The normal kind of length of a drill bit is never really more than 75 millimeters. So if I go up 75 millimeters, that's probably about right. And then left clicking over here when the dot goes green so that it connects effectively. Now what we're going to do is use one of my favorite tools, the trim tool, and we're going to trim this up so that it's all good. So we can't trim this one because we have that 6 there, so I'm going to click on that line and delete it like that. Okay, we can zoom out a little bit and see what we've got. So we've got everything halved here in terms of the width, but the lengths are all the appropriate distance. And we're actually lucky we've got this nice line here that we can revolve this around. And like I've just said then, we're going to revolve it. So if we go 3D model in the top left, go to revolve. It should go blue if you've connected all of the lines together. If you have any gaps in your outside there, it will not go blue. Now we want to click on this axis line here and go OK. Now, so you can see there, we've actually turned out with something that looks very similar to what we made in real life. What we can also do, if I left click on here, and then we need to find our need to find, our thread tool, which we can put in a knurl. I'm going to have to get back to that. I'll look that up. There's a way to put a knurl on that one, but first what we're actually going to do is put a thread on that, and our thread is going to be 14 by 2. So I've obviously done this previously and go okay. So I've got my 14 by 2 thread on there, and now we need to go back and put our knurl on the handle there. So, and what we're going to do is actually change a couple of things. So if we go up the top here, we can change it there. I actually like to go to Tools, and we're actually going to go to, so if I click on there, and we're going to go to Appearance, and we're going to go to, wrong one. Although it came up, whoops, sorry, cancel that, click on here, go to here. I don't know why it's coming up on this, but not when I looked it up on the other part. KKK, where's K? This is no good. Came up just before, there we go, knurled. So that's going to change that to knurled. It doesn't quite look like that, and so what I normally do as well, I'm going to change the metal because we are making this out of steel. So click on steel, click up there, and the rest of it is steel. Why are we going mild steel? Mild steel is a bit more accurate. Okay. All good. The only thing you can do is, I think that's all good. Alright, so we've got our steel, we've got our knurl. Doesn't look exactly like it should, but we're working with the different properties that we have up the top there. So now we need to make a couple more parts. So we're going to make the head, and we're going to make one insert that we can then change to multiple materials to suit our purposes. So I'm going to go to the top left here and click on that piece of paper again. We've already got metric and standard millimeters selected, so we know we're going in the right direction. So we need to start a 2D sketch again up the top left there, and we're going to click on the XZ plane again and turn top around to face the right direction. So let's make the head, because that would be the second part that we'd make in this process. So we've started our 2D sketch, and we're going to make our piece of, actually we're going to do the same technique that we did before. We're actually going to make the side profile. No, we don't, because we're going to make some edits to it anyway. So we're actually going to go circle, and we want this to be 30 millimeters in diameter. So 30, enter, okay. So we've got that there. We're going to do 3D model extrude, and we're going to extrude that the full length, which is actually not on the old drawing, which is a big stuff up. So that's frustrating, but I'm pretty sure it's 50 millimeters. Okay. So now we're going to move through, and we're going to put a hole into this. Or actually, we're going to cut the outside edges down by 1 millimeter. So by left clicking on the end and then clicking create sketch, we can go circle. We can go, what's that going to be? 30, 29. 29, enter. And we've got that there. I'm going to go 30, enter. So now if I zoom in nice and close, you see that I've got that little ring around the outside. So if I go 3D model extrude, and I want to select that little face there, and we're actually going to cut. We don't want to cut it all the way through. So you can see that I've got 50 selected. We actually want to cut 10 millimeters into this and go okay. So we've cut our 1 millimeter, and we're just going to go around and do that down the other end as well. So from here, doing our circles again. So we start from the outside this time, 30. Do another circle, 29. Right click, okay. So then we can go 3D model extrude. Zooming in, clicking on that, and then clicking cut and going okay. Alright, so again, outside of this looking nicely similar to what we'd actually make in person. So now we need to click on the end again, and then go to the fifth option to the right. And we need to cut a hole straight through this. Now when you drill this hole, in the workshop in real life, you need to drill it at 12 millimeters because you need to have the thread height taken away from the size of the hole. So if we're doing this 14 by 2 for our thread like we did on the end of the hammer, we need to be cutting a 12 mil hole so we can thread this and make it fit together. So we know this should fit. So now if I go and cut this straight through, so 3D model extrude, I'm going to select cut, we can just grab that and drag it all the way through because it doesn't matter. Now the biggest problem with this is that we need to do another sketch on the inside of this and cut a hole outwards. This is actually quite easy because we can use the Z plane and we'll use sketch on that. Yeah, the only reason that this is a little bit confusing, you can't really see what you're doing too fantastically. But if we remember, if I use the line tool just here and I come in there, so I know that half of this is 25 because the full distance is 50, and then right click and go okay. So now I've got a point in the middle that will shine green that I can use. So I'm going to use a circle, and we need this to be 12 again. Okay, 3D model extrude. The only thing that's going to be selected is the circle because it's the only closed area or closed shape within the sketch. And you can see here if I select cut, it's going to cut a nice circle out for me. And that's actually pretty good. Whoa. The only other thing that would be slightly better is if I went a little bit up into the head a bit further. But for today, this will be fine. I'll quickly show you guys because it's a bit easier. I'll show you now. So it's a little bit easier to do the next step. So if I wanted to do that again, I'd go to the same plane, select that again. I can go circle. I would have to do my line again though, from the edge. 25. And then circle. Decided to do this as well because it's just a lot more accurate in terms of doing this properly like this. People know that you have to do the relief into the top of it as well to make it actually screw in properly. So I think it's just good practice to do this. So there we go. So we're going to cut. I don't want the distance to be that. I want to be like 10. And we're going to cut this way. And we're going to cut 10. And double check that hasn't gone all the way through our top, which it hasn't. That's probably actually perfect there. Plenty of meat around it to make sure that it's not going to break out or anything and go okay. So now we've got our head. We're going to make the head the correct material now. So if I go to tools, materials, we need to go to mild steel. Oh, I've definitely gone past that. Where's M? Oh, there's steel mild, so it's under S. Steel mild. Assign that to selected. That's that little arrow on the side there. And get out of that. And now we can do a couple of different things. So we're going to go to 3D model and we're going to put our threads on. We're going to make sure that we select thread. I didn't select a surface though, that was silly. So you're going to select your surface and then go to thread. And it's going to go to the wrong one. We want it to be 12 by 2. It's going to let us. No, it's not. Metric, isometric, might let us, no. Just checking through, definitely should be that, and it should definitely be letting us have a 12 by 2. Let's try it on this one and see if we might need to change it. Alright, So, because this, I want you guys to get in the practice of doing things properly, but because it's not showing the 12x2 thread, we're just going to leave it at that for appearance sake, and then make sure that we dictate it correctly on our drawing. But you can see there's a thread on it, and that's kind of the main thing at the moment. We've got all the holes drilled, we've got the outside shaped, and we've got the threads done. So the final thing we need to do is the end cap for this. I'm going to go new sketch, standard millimeters IPT, and we're going to create this. Now this is quite easy. I'm going to go through saving them in a second, and you'll see that I'll save one, change the material, save the next one, so that we've got those different materials for when we put it together, because you need the different soft faces. Now if I go to, we've gone to sketch again, we've flipped top around, so we're ready to go. We're going to, easiest way for this is actually to do the same thing we did at the start, so cutting everything in half. So what's half of 29 is, actually we'll do the length first. The length is going to be 35. Press enter, and zoom in a little bit. We're going to go half of what 29 is, which is going to be 20, was it 28.5? Is that right? 28.5? Don't know where I got that from. Hold up. It's going to be 14.5 to go across. It's a bit of a brain fade, wasn't it? I don't know why that wasn't letting me put the dimensions in then. Let's do it like this, 14.5. Oh, I don't have, no, I've got an unlock on. Cool. Alright, so then we need to do the rest of it going down. So that's going to be going down to approximately halfway, which is 17.5. And then what is half of 14? Because we're going to have to be threading this end. So actually it's probably right, if it's easier if I right click and go OK, line, and we'll start from this end. And what's half of 14 is going to be 7. Press enter. This should snap, so you can see how there's that little line going across here, and then I can just join those together like that. And now I just need to go 3D model, extrude. No, I don't. I'm going to go 3D model, we're going to go revolve. Come on, Mr. Lax, and get your head screwed on, and then we're going to go select axes, that middle one there, and go OK. Now we want a nice hard edge on this face here because it's going to connect up with our hammerhead. We want a little bit of a fillet. So up here on the top left, there's fillet. And that, what that does, we'll put a 2mm fillet on it. No, we don't want a fillet. We want a chamfer. Come on, again, I'm starting to lose it. And we want a chamfer, okay. So 2mm chamfer. It's a nice hard edge like that. But that's what you want on the edge of your hammer. You'll see that they're not normally flat. They've normally got that little chamfer or a bit of a fillet on them to make them a little bit softer. We're going to add our thread on this, and we're going to select that face. That's why it wouldn't let me do the 14 before. I'm going to go K, and then down the bottom left here. So if you ever have to redo parts, you just go down the bottom there. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to go thread, size 14 by 2. Alright, big brain play. Let's go through and fix these up. So I apologise. We're going to change these. That's 14 by 2. Okay. And then the last one, thread, size 14. Okay. So now we've fixed that up. And we've got one of our heads completed as well. We still need to actually select our material for this. So if we go Tools, Materials, and we want this particular head, we'll make it our carbon steel. So why do we want carbon steel instead of our normal mild steel? Mild steel is a lot softer. Carbon steel can actually be hardened. So if we identify that as being carbon steel, we know this is going to be our hardened head. Even though it's a soft-faced hammer, you might want an edge that's a little bit harder. So now I'm going to go through and save these really quickly. You can see here, I'm still going in Autodesk, I'm going in Projects, and I'm going to call this one Soft-Faced Hammer. And go OK. opening that up. We're going to name this face 1. Save that. Let's save this one. I'm going to name this head and save that. We've set the material for that, haven't we? If I go to materials, we have. Excellent. Working with lots of different shades of grey sometimes gets a little bit confusing. Just want to double check the material set for that is, we want mild steel is what we want. Alright, cool. That's mild steel now, which is what we want as well. So now we're going to save that as handle. And save that. Alright, so we've got all the different parts. Now if we go back to face 1, right, and I go to tools, and we're still in materials, and I go down to, where are we? So if we go bronze, so you could, I think, yeah, so brass actually. Brass is what I made my head out of in the video, so the practical video, and then save that. I just press save, I'm silly. So I've saved that as face 1 now. So now I need to go here to materials, and I need to change it back to high carbon steel, get out of that, and we need to go file and save as. And now we can call it face 2. Save that. So we've got high carbon steel for a hard head, we've got brass for a soft head, and even for a little bit softer, we can actually go, is brass softer than aluminium? I cannot remember, I will be honest with you. So I'm going to go materials, and we're actually going to make a aluminium head, just like that. And then we're going to go file, and we're going to save this as, so make sure we go save as, so we can call this face 3. So now we've got our 2 faces at the top, and our spare one for in the bottom, so in case we bust something up, or we need a slightly different material. So now we've got all of our, what's that, 5 different parts ready. I'm going to, this has obviously been quite a long video. I've kind of taken it a little bit back to basics, so hopefully you've learnt a lot, and hopefully I've cleared up a few things that I might not have covered in the past, but the next video will be me assembling this together, so hopefully you are prepped for that.